Yeah, I guess we have to talk about it. So, if you had been paying attention to this YouTube channel, 2 days ago, we made a video talking about the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers, and reports coming out that suggested that Edmonton was interested in reacquiring Evander Kane. Yeah, I know. Canucks fans super pissed off that this trade ever went down in the first place, saying things like, oh my goodness, how could the Canucks help out the Oilers? How could they free up that money and take this guy, giving them an opportunity to bolster up their team in other ways because Evander Kane isn't good, he takes penalties, he's this and he's that. But apparently, according to some of the reports coming out of Alberta, seems like Edmonton wants him back. And that's an entire other conversation for another day. We know the Vancouver Canucks seem to value Evander Kane based off of the way he's played and based off of all the rhetoric post-Kane trade to Vancouver. But this video is going to go over a little bit of a different flavor when talking about those Kane trade discussions. Because this was also talked about in our video 2 days ago. But this tweet from John Puck 1992 says that Cam Robinson thinks the Canucks can probably get a first-round pick for Kiefer Sherwood and a second-round pick for Evander Kane at 50% retained at the deadline. He said this 3 days ago on Schaefer and Price, and I thought it was super interesting to go out there and talk about these prices. Now, just think about that for a second. Not the Kiefer Sherwood part, we'll talk about that later, but Evander Kane, he was acquired for a fourth. That fourth-round pick was acquired by Vancouver for Vasily Podkolzin, so if you work yourselves up the trade tree, Vancouver traded a top 10 pick in Podkolzin because he was taken 10th overall for a pick. That same pick was then traded for Evander Kane, and then Evander Kane could potentially get traded with salary retained for a second. Now, we already said that the asset management, when you follow the trade tree down that way, is really not great. You don't want to turn a 10th overall pick into Evander Kane. You don't want to turn a 10th overall pick into a guy who just ends up playing in your bottom six because Rick Tocchet can't develop him properly. But that's how the cookie crumbles for Vancouver when you follow the Pod's trade tree. But now thinking about potentially getting another second-round pick, for example, if you retain Kane at 50%, essentially what you would have been doing is you would have been taking on Kane's salary for the year at 50% to upgrade that fourth-round pick that you got for Vasily Podkolzin all the way into the second round. And when you think about it like that, yeah, no, I'll admit it's really underwhelming, but still, for Vancouver Canucks fans who are very disappointed with the way Evander Kane has performed this season, this might be a little bit of solace, especially if the Vancouver Canucks decide for themselves in, let's just say, February or March, that they're not actually going to be making the playoffs and they're not good enough, etc., etc. We said this all along, but Vancouver and the Canucks, they have such a big excuse for how this season has gone so far, and it is the fact that half the gosh darn team is hurt and half the superstars on this team continue to get hurt. They haven't been healthy, and because they haven't been healthy, the benefit of the doubt is always going to exist there, especially when thinking about what Jim Rutherford said yesterday in his interview with Ian McIntyre. Even if Quinn Hughes leaves, we're not going to go down the path of a rebuild because we have young guys and they're still progressing and they're still developing and we still believe in them, etc., etc., etc. You know, from a human-to-human perspective, I can totally understand why a guy like Jim Rutherford, in particular, does not want to go through the tribulations and the progression of a rebuild. Rutherford's 76 years old. Like, you think that guy is going to sit back and say, yeah, let's spend the next 8 years getting top 5 draft picks and potentially risk becoming like Buffalo? Now, I'm not defending the Canucks organization's thought process by thinking about that. I would rather see them go down the rebuild path. Look at Chicago, look at San Jose, Anaheim, Montreal, Columbus. These teams have turned it around. And it's because they were able to get top draft picks and allow themselves to develop those guys. You know what happened the last time Vancouver had themselves a top draft pick? Well, they took Elias Pettersson 5th overall. They also took Olli Juolevi the year before that, but we're not going to dive into that. Quinn Hughes, 7th overall too, so there you go. But thinking about Evander Kane and what he has done so far with Vancouver, 9 points in 19 games. He is on pace for about 40 points on the year, which honestly, based off the way Canucks fans talk about this guy, you wouldn't assume that's the case. You wouldn't assume he is just under half a point a game because of all the negative discourse that surrounds Evander Kane. And to be fair, that negative discourse exists for a reason. The guy takes ill-timed penalties. He takes too many penalties. There are many plays in the O-zone that just completely die in his stick. Either he shoots it wide and it ricochets back into his own zone, or he just passes it to nobody. That happens often with Kane. But he's still half a point a game, which is quite remarkable when you consider just how ineffective Canucks fans like to say he is. Now, he really has been starting to score more as of late, but still, Evander is a guy whom I'm guessing because he's in a contract year and because the price of him in a trade could potentially get up to a second-round pick if Vancouver retains, I do think a lot of fans would see that as a win. If they trade a 4th for Kane and then Kane with salary retained for a 2nd, that works out in my mind. You buy low, you sell high. That's how economics work, right? And then you think about Kiefer Sherwood, the other guy that was mentioned in that tweet over there. He could potentially get a first-round pick for the Vancouver Canucks, according to what Cam Robinson is saying. Sherwood is on pace for 51 points this season in 82 games, but he's on pace for 47 goals. Now, is he going to stay in this same ratio of point and goal production? I don't know. Is he going to get 1 assist for every 11 goals that he gets? I don't really know. If he finishes off the year with 47 goals and only 4 assists, then I'll eat my hat. I'll eat all the hats that exist in this room. I'll eat the jerseys behind me if Kiefer Sherwood gets 47 goals and 4 assists on the year. He'll probably get more assists, but when you look at all the qualities that this guy brings at 30 years old in the prime of his career, he's also in a contract season and he's making 1.5 mil. He is not making the same 5.125 that Evander Kane is making. Kiefer Sherwood is a total bargain. And if Vancouver decides that they're not in the playoff picture by the time February rolls around, Kiefer Sherwood, I think, probably could be seen as a top-tier trade candidate, unless, of course, the Canucks just decide to re-sign him and give him $4 million by 5 years. They go the Dakota Joshua route, and everything just repeats in Vancouver because it always seems to happen like that. Also, Chief Keef is still one of the biggest hitters in the National Hockey League. Excuse the team names on my Yahoo page, but right now Kiefer Sherwood leads the NHL in hits. He is right there, number 1, with 86 hits in 19 games played. Do the math on that, and he averages 4.5 hits a game. And if you look at the player profile itself, I mean, just look at the numbers over here. Let's move that up, shall we? So, Kiefer Sherwood had 7 hits in the Carolina game. He had 8 hits against Winnipeg, 1 hit but 1 goal against Colorado. But then you dive into it here, 3 hits, 4 hits, 5 hits, 4 hits, 4 hits. He's been hitting like crazy. And he's been blocking shots too. So there's a lot of value out of Kiefer Sherwood, fantasy-wise and on ice-wise. He just does everything you need an aggressive, tenacious, goal-scoring forward to do, despite the fact that he doesn't have the positioning or the pure skill of a Leon Draisaitl. He just has that dog in him, and if that's worth a first-round pick, then, I'm not going to complain. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. How do you feel about Cam Robinson's label for Vancouver Canucks trade prices over here? Kiefer Sherwood netting Vancouver a first if he's traded at the deadline, and Evander Kane, 50% retained, potentially getting a second. Does that make sense in your mind? Do you think it's an accurate measurement, and do you think it's actually going to happen? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.